Data is complex. It's everywhere, in many shapes, many formats, and growing exponentially. Its use is evolving just as fast, with more and more applications. And AI is adding more data, more use cases, and more complexity. But your options to manage this data complexity aren't working. They're monolithic, limiting your ability to scale, or fragmented, drowning your best talent in technology chaos, and still untrusted. So you replatform, migrate data, reorg, and retrain, only to do it all over again and again. But it doesn't have to be this way. It's time to stop replatforming, to build on what you already have, by containerizing your complexity. Any data, any transform, any use, anywhere. Nextdata OS encapsulates data, code, control, and semantics into autonomous data products that are automatically discoverable and uniquely addressable. Streamline data processing and access. Self-govern with policies as code. Syncing semantic models with live data. Always up to date and trusted. All of your data products autonomous and connected in a live data mesh. A unified, decentralized, and automated solution that just works. Now your data empowers you to accelerate innovation, to enable AI, to build what's next. Nextdata, data products done right.
Welcome to the Nextdata OS launch. Introducing autonomous data products. And please welcome Zhamak Dehghani, founder and CEO of Nextdata.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. Wherever in the world you're joining from, we are so excited to be connected with you today because this is a big moment for us. We have something special to share, something that I have been personally obsessed about for the last 7 years. And my team and I at Nextdata have been head down building for the last 2.5 years. We've been building this with a lot of care, a lot of love, and a lot of conviction. So we are super excited to share what we built, share some of our user conversations, and give you a little sneak peek of what comes next. So let's dive in. So I've been incredibly fortunate that my work has helped lead a global data decentralization movement. This movement was born out of frustration. It was frustration with slow and brittle data management. It was frustration of centralized data team, being stuck in the middle. It was the frustration with expensive and long processes. It was frustration with not having trusted data when and where we needed it. And what resonated with people, it wasn't just the pain, it was also the promise of scale, that by decentralizing data and innovation and ownership, we can share data across the business at large. It was the promise of speed, making data generation use truly self-serve, end-to-end, and do it all safely with automated governance built into every single data touchpoint. So that, the bottom line, data becomes a product. It's something that we can safely generate, manage, and share, and use at scale. But let's face it, we are still struggling to make that promise real. Why? Because we're missing the core ingredients that make decentralization actually work. We're missing the building blocks of that data innovation at scale. And here, what makes it even harder, it's the fact that data has this inherent complexity, It's really hard. And it's not just hard, it's combinatorially hard. It's a simple, undeniable math. Data can live anywhere. It can take many forms. It can be processed in countless ways. It is used in a wide range of applications by people with different skills in businesses that are constantly growing and changing. So imagine one small change in one of these dimensions. That's 1,000 new configurations to manage now. Now, throw in AI agents and LLMs into the mix, new use cases, and the number of these combinations explodes again. So I want to really emphasize that this is not a linear problem. This is a combinatorial problem. And it's foolish to think that the way we're trying to manage this complexity today is going to work out. Either try to fight it and cram everything into a single system, a centralized warehouse, an Uber catalog, a one-size-fits-all stack, or let it fight us by duct taping 10, 20, 30 disconnected tools together, pipelines, catalogs, semantic layers, contracts, quality, the list goes on, all stitched together into a tangled mess of operational headache. And what we're missing is a technology that embraces this inherent complexity, a system that encapsulates and combines these fragments into one simple, unified self-serve experience. And this system, this innovation has to be a combinatorial innovation. It must be decentralized. And that's how real innovation happens, by combining powerful building blocks in new forms, in new ways, in new experiences. And you've seen this before. We've seen how combinations can simplify complexity into one simple, beautiful device held in the palm of our hands that let us share, connect, and create joy at a global scale. It isn't a centralized monolith. It is a platform. It's a platform for individual creativity. And we're committed to do the same for data. We want to make data management chores fade into the background, cataloging, governing, pipelining, provisioning. We want them to become irrelevant so that you can focus on what matters, data creativity, so that everyone in your organization is able to generate data, to share it, to discover it, to use it, and do that autonomously and do that with joy. So I'm so thrilled to introduce Nextdata's autonomous data products, a domain-oriented, decentralized building block of data innovation. It encapsulates and automates complexity, data, code, controls, and semantic, all in one deceptively simple experience. It governs itself. It is discoverable out of the box. It shares its health and usage metrics in real time. It protects itself and downstream from bad data, proved access, and data drifts. It is powered by engineering elegance. Our modular polycompute runtime kernel packs all of these smarts in a small and efficient binary. Our extensible and dynamic driver architecture integrates with your existing foundational data stack, your compute, your storage, your security, and your quality. And best of all, it gives everyone in the organization a unified and simple experience on their own unique permutation of data stack. It tames complexity and it amplifies autonomy. Let me tell you about Nextdata OS. Nextdata OS is the autonomous data product platform that gives each role the tools they need. Data product creators, they can build, share, and manage full lifecycle data products in minutes. Data consumers can instantly discover and access trusted live data. Data platform engineers can integrate with existing stacks and onboard new teams in less than an hour. And platform owners can observe the health and insights of the entire mesh of data products in real time. This is how we scale trust. This is how we scale creativity, and this is how we scale data in the future. I would love to now introduce you to Cornelius, our head of marketing, who's been relentlessly working to put this launch event together for you. He will walk you through the conversations with our users and demos of the product. Please welcome Cornelius.
Thank you, Zhamak. I am so excited to share Nextdata OS with you. Today, we're going to show you how users discover and trust anonymous data products. We'll show you how developers build and deploy them, how we're shortening what we call the data supply chain. And we'll show you some exciting features about how Nextdata OS can empower all the use cases and all the users in the company, both humans and AIs, and also how we're taking governance to the next level. We're also going to introduce you to a couple of our users, the people who really help shape what Nextdata OS is today. And we're going to start the conversation between Zhamak and Amrita Joshi, a Senior Director of Data Foundations for Mars Pet Nutrition globally.
Amrita, I am so excited to be speaking with you across the Atlantic, I guess. You are based in London, if I remember correctly. And so happy to talk about our work together and your experience as a data leader. Let's get started with your introduction.
My name is Amrita Joshi. I am leading Data Foundation for Pet Nutrition globally. I'm responsible for end-to-end making data findable, usable, and discoverable. That's the theme for us.
It's a very short mission, but it's not an easy one, and you're doing an amazing job from my experience so far working with you. So tell me a little bit more about kind of the role that data plays in Mars Pet Nutrition.
Data sits at the very heart of our digital strategy. Mars Pet Nutrition in general, we are so focused and we are so data centric. It's foundational on how we deliver value to our pet and pet owners and also our partners. Whether it is enabling personalization, whether it is enabling and driving our efficiency, innovation, doing what's right for our pets and their parents, everything is allowed because of the right data at the center.
So you use the word foundational. I love that because that's just the basis of everything we do, right? Whether, today we're using generative AI or yesterday we were doing traditional ML and always doing analytics and making predictions or looking at past as efficiency. Data is just such a foundational piece of all of those use cases.
I think the problem that we are trying to solve is how to simplify data for our business owners, how we can make it easy for them to just consume data without worrying about the accuracy, the reliability, consistency of the data. And that is the main objective with which my team is established. So we are moving more and more towards data mesh environment, and it is important that they get access of data, they see the right lineage of data, and they also have the right accuracy and quality measures in place. So how we as a digital organization can empower them so that they can own and govern their own data more independently.
Yeah, I understand. And it's not an easy one because on one hand, you're trying to give autonomy and have this more federated approach so people can self-serve, perhaps generate data, self-serve discover data, self-serve understand it. And on the other hand, at the end of the day, your team is responsible if the data is not available, data is not understandable, the infrastructure is not up. And to balance these two, there is just this hairball of data infrastructure and foundation complexity that you have to deal with at the same time. So it's this complexity and balance, this federation and control at the same time, autonomy and yet harmony at the same time, simplicity and simplicity, right? Make things simple for everyone involved. So we've been working together for a little while. Tell us a little bit how we've been able to kind of show the art of possible and help you some of these problems so far.
I think the three areas where we have seen a great potential through Nextdata platform is once is agility. It's agility at scale, because for enterprise like us, we need to move fast, and we need to have that agility and adaptability. So that is one area which has been very powerful. Second, I mentioned it earlier, simplicity. How you can give that integrated experience instead of looking at cataloging separately, looking at governance separately, looking at lineage separately, how you can bring everything together and make it simple for your user. That's the second powerful feature. And the third thing that is really impactful is traceability. A simple way of looking end-to-end portfolio of data or landscape of data is extremely important. So those are the few areas which we really found Nextdata to be a game changer.
Yeah, Marisa, it warms my heart to hear that, because the words that you use, simplicity, agility at scale, and making things possible, feasible, without drowning in complex data management, without sacrificing the experience of understanding and trusting the data. It truly warms my heart. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with me. I know it's late afternoon where you are, and have a great weekend. I hope to come back here and share what we have achieved together in a little while.
Thank you so much. It is really a pleasure being part of this journey.
Thank you, Amrita.
So data is at the heart of that business and at the heart of every business. And what data management has to do is make it simpler so the business can be more agile. So who is ready to see Nextdata OS? I have to say, looking at what I've seen on the internet over the last couple of weeks since we announced the product, I know there are thousands of you who are waiting to see this. And there is no better person to show it to us than the person who designed it and led its development, Zhamak Dehghani.
Imagine what happens when you give every team in your company the power to ship their own data products. And what happens if those data products are autonomous? Scale happens. Suddenly your data product work isn't stuck. They're happening everywhere at once. They move at the speed of your business, not behind it. Imagine you're a retail company, Nextopia.co. Each team, marketing, merchandise, supply chain, sales, they're not waiting for a central data team. They are building and shipping their own data products, fast, self-serve, and safe. Each team is in control of their own destiny, and that's how scale becomes real. Each of these hexagons you see, that's an autonomous data product. Each data product is fully responsible for its own data, from generation to governance to discovery, with full control on its own unique data stack. Take this one, for example, multi-channel sales. It provisions its own cloud infrastructure, runs its analysis on Databricks compute, stores output in Azure Blob with Delta file format, and pushes it to Snowflake 2. And it gets its data from S3 on AWS on a completely different cloud, all in one unified data product. It runs its own contracts and controls and emits real-time signals about its health. It generates data on a cadence that makes sense to it, in this case, every few minutes. It manages access to its consumers, and it defines its own semantic models. In this case, 3 different models, and delivers data for the same semantic in different formats. And here's the best part. We don't have to worry about 3 or 4 or 5 different tools, pipelines, semantic layers, governance, access, observability. It's all here, wrapped into one autonomous data product. It's simple and scalable. Each autonomous data product manages its own upstream dependencies and self-orchestrates what matters. For multi-channel sales, it's calculating cross-channel sales performance. So brings data from 3 sources: store sales, wholesale, and online, and orchestrate all of this on its own. The beauty of it, there is no central orchestrator, no DAG manager, no fragile pipelines crisscrossing systems. From here, a rich and global lineage emerges bottom up, straight from these local connections. And it's not just pipelines, it's semantics too. For each data product, it defines its own semantic relationships and is with its adjacent nodes. For example, multi-channel product comes from the product catalog. Region is aligned with where the product was actually sold. So what do we get? A living semantic graph built from the bottom up, always in sync with the data it describes. No more top-down semantic layers that go stale the moment you build them. This is semantic at scale, emergent and alive. Okay, now let's switch hats. I am a data consumer. I'm interested in cross-channel sales performance. I see each data product in the context of the entire business, and I can get a real signal of their health. And everything I need is right here at my fingertips. I can learn more, understand what it offers, and trust based on its quantified quality and how it's being used. I can explore the semantic models, see sample data, and understand what it is actually providing. And is it the data that I'm looking for? I can even check its performance, how well it's upheld its contracts and guarantees, and get comfortable whether it fits my use case. If I am an analyst, I can get the same semantic model in the format and tag I already use, like warehouse tables, and query it without changing a thing in my workflow. And as a data scientist, I can pull the same semantic directly in my tool of choice. In this case, reading Delta files, and I'm good to go. The best part, I know I'm using live, accurate, and up-to-date metadata because it's coming directly from the running autonomous data product itself, not from some stale, manually changed catalog disconnected from reality. It is direct, no middleman, no extra systems in the way. And that is our goal. We don't block the consumers, we empower them with fast and simple and connected autonomous data products. Now let's talk about what it's like to be a data producer with Nextdata. We're not here to get in the way of your tools and your flow. We know you love your notebooks. We know you love your IDEs. Great, keep using them. Our job is to augment your process, not to replace it. So you can turn your analysis and predictions into a living, self-governing, self-documenting data product with just a few simple declarations. Take multi-channel sales, for example. The team wrote some business logic in Python, calculating trending and emerging products, and checked it into Git. Great practice. That's it for the core logic. Now, to turn it into a fully autonomous data product, here is all they need to do. Declare the data product details, name, descriptions, and its purpose, specify its input and the contractual expectations, what semantic model it expects, what should happen if they're not met, fail hard or warn and continue. Define its outputs, what it produces and the guarantees it makes, and add a few controls. In this case, who can discover the product, and access its data, and how long the data should be retained. Now, let's look at a semantic model. Semantic models are simply the contract of intent, the schema, the relationships, and the rules that govern data behavior. For schema types, our types are fully compatible with Arrow, one of the most interoperable data type systems. The relationships are simply links from this data product to other globally addressable and versioned data products. As for semantic rules, you can describe them computationally however you like, with your favorite data quality tool, SODA, Great Expectations, Monte Carlo, or just plain code. For us, it's all just another quality driver. We'll make sure they're configured and run at the right moment as expectations on inputs or promises on outputs. And that's it. What you just saw was a Python-based specification, but you could use YAML, SQL, or even auto-generate these from your existing assets. You pass it to Nextdata OS and launch your data product. It provisions its own infrastructure, Databricks, Snowflake, ADLS, whatever it needs, automatically. It listens for data changes on its inputs. It validates them, runs the logic, produces the semantic in multiple data formats for multiple use cases, only produces the data it promised, it protects itself from bad access, and while doing all of that, gives you real-time information about its metrics and health. No more waiting for infra, no more duct taping tools for quality, contracts, metadata, orchestration, no more duct taping, period. Leave that to us. Just one powerful unified experience, an autonomous data product up and running. It is accessible by both humans and the machines. All of its running capabilities, discovery, control, data access, and health, exposed through a single web addressable URL. You can email this URL to a teammate. You can plug it into a program. You can even share it with all your AI friends. And as long as they have access, they are good to go. One link, everything you need, accessible from anywhere. And that's the power of autonomous data products.
The power of autonomous data products. So one of the questions that's come up is, how do you access and orchestrate all those different clouds and stacks? Well, as Zhamak mentioned in the keynote, Nextdata OS uses a pluggable driver architecture to access and orchestrate different data stacks, different services, and different clouds. This creates a consistent unified management layer across data stacks, across organizational boundaries, and even across trust boundaries. We'll be providing an SDK for these drivers in the future so you can build your own for whatever data source or infrastructure you've got. This is what allows decentralized data product ownership. Use whatever stack you want, but manage it in a unified way across the organization. This means stop migrating and replatforming. Start focusing on building data value rather than rearranging the furniture every few years. So, Zhamak said a minute ago that Nextdata OS supports all your users, humans and machines. Autonomous data products were purpose-built for the AI era. One of the growing dimensions of complexity that Zhamak mentioned is this explosion of new use cases, including agentic applications, which are hungry for data. Just most data management teams aren't ready for this kind of velocity and volume. But just like humans, AI agents need data that is up to date, automatically discoverable, safely accessible, and in a format that the agent can understand and use. Nextdata autonomous data products are multimodal, meaning they can serve data in multiple shapes and formats from the same semantic and with the same governance regime. Again, just like we have unified data management across all your stacks and assets and across all your use cases, human and AI.
Here we have Promoti and GenAI.
Oh, stop. With that, I'm excited to pass it off to Jörg Schott, our head of engineering, to show you how easy this is.
Here we have Promoti and GenAI agents observing the sales information available in the mesh and identifying potential promotional campaigns. Promote's task is fairly simple. It continuously checks for all data products with sales relevant data in the product and sales domain. And we are checking for a specific criteria here, which is a vector embedding output. So it is easily consumable for GenAI agents. Next, it will retrieve the recent data samples for the matching data products and then suggest promotional campaigns. The natural language instructions you can see here can be as simple because Promote can rely on MCP tools available by Nextdata OS, giving it access to the Nextdata OS APIs. In short, they enable Promote to query the mesh, data product information, the data itself, and also create campaigns. Let us review some of the challenges we would face if we had to implement Promote in a traditional ELT-based architecture. As soon as data becomes part of the GenAI game, we are dealing with the traditional data management challenges, such as data quality, permissions, authentication, and especially with the automated consumption by GenAI and agents, discovery and consumability in a dynamic environment. Therefore, let us take another look at our multi-channel sales data product Zhamak was working with before. First, we can see this data product is ensuring a number of promises. These promises are covering two particular aspects relevant to GenAI and agents. First of all, data quality. As for any machine learning model, GenAI is very sensitive to bad or incorrect data. You can have the best model out there, but with bad data, you will end up with bad results and therefore with incorrect answers or incorrect actions taken by your agent. Trust, on the other hand, is also very critical. As those agents are acting autonomously, we need to ensure that we are not leaking any customer information, any PII information, or company secrets via our chatbot or agent. Next, let us take a look at the different outputs. Different personas need different representations of the same semantic model to work with. For example, a data scientist can happily work with the SQL data. A machine learning training job, on the other hand, probably prefers like a document or file structured output it can use as training input. And agents, GenAI in general, they really love direct vector embedding representations here. And for that, let us actually start adding a pinecone embedding output to our multi-channel sales data product. For that, we have to edit these files, add the actual transformation, and make it available to our model. Please note, these are all just different views on the same aspect of the same semantic data model. Therefore, Nextdata OS will actually ensure that they are coherent and valid simultaneously. Discovery is another great cue. Now that we have redeployed the multi-channel sales data product, let's have another look at Promote starting to use those sales trend data and create promotional campaigns based on that. In summary, Nextdata OS enables GenAI agents safe data discovery and consumptions, especially with dynamic enterprise data.
So, same unified management across humans and across AI use cases. So now let's talk about power up-leveling governance. Automating compliance and governance at scale is a must-do to meet the demands and the velocity of business data. But most organizations have a simplistic understanding of governance. We went to the most complex data environment we could find to understand the requirements for computational governance at scale. Drug discovery. Drug discovery is unique in that it combines a need for exceptional collaboration and data sharing between researchers and research teams with very intricate and idiosyncratic governance requirements. To help you understand what this environment is like, Zhamak spoke with Edward Kiruluta of Bristol Myers Squibb.
I am so excited to introduce Edward Kiruluta, one of the people that is most responsible for pushing the envelope on what Nextdata OS needed to be. Edward, welcome. I'm so excited to chat today.
I'm so glad to be with you, Zhamak.
We had the privilege of learning so much from you at early days of our engagement, when your focus was, deep in life sciences and particularly drug discovery, which to me represented one of the most complex data environments that I had ever seen.
Absolutely. And drug discovery is kind of one of those interesting areas which is very diverse in the sense that you have this explosion of data, the explosion of questions, and a combination of trying to answer questions with urgency at speed, and trying to scramble to pull together what data sets make sense to get an answer that moves the question forward, or at least allows the teams to move forward. And that is where I felt like what Nextdata was building was exactly the kind of tool we were looking for. We had to build very similar tools to try to solve this problem.
Yeah, I from our experience, it was, really evident that the speed of experimentation, and experimentation in true meaning, just this explosion of experiments need to happen, the speed that needed to happen. I think maybe for the audience, people that are listening, they would say, look, we have all these technologies at your disposal. We have data pipelines, we have catalogs, we have a lot of data tooling. What is so unique that doesn't allow you to just pack those tools into the environment? Maybe we can scratch the surface a little bit deeper if you can help us understand, at least for the audience, this uniqueness of data discovery and research, and how sometimes the tools fall short.
Yeah, so in this environment, in the research environment especially, data comes from all places and is sometimes often opaque in the sense that it's not nicely decorated to make it easy to find. And then the different domains of scientists think about data in different ways. So what somebody might think of as, oh, this is just an expression data set for me to do some correlation analysis. Somebody else thinks about is that data from a clinical trial, for example. A lot of data just simply has a file name or a project name for which it came into the organization for. But this repurposing it for something else means that you have to kind of know that that thing exists. You are in a meeting and you heard about it, but that's like one of the big problems. Like data sits in all kinds of different places in the organization. So even knowing that it exists is a challenge. So I think that's one of the things that I kind of saw as the biggest value in Nextdata. It's like, hey, you've also solved this problem, but in a more standardized way. And then once you find it, of course, the challenge is like, how do I get it, right?
I remember I had so much empathy for people in governance team, because when people in data space and technical people talk about governance, they think, well, X person in domain Y with role X, role Z can get access to data. It's just a simple access control.
Static.
What's a big deal?
Right.
Right? Exactly. And very limited in terms of the criteria or condition that you have to evaluate and validate to see if this is fit. And I remember I heard from one of your colleagues when she was describing what she has to evaluate to say whether this data is actually, can be used for this purpose, for that. So can you tell us a little bit about governance? I would love to scratch the surface in that area too.
Yeah, so I think a lot of research data sets are open in the sense that they are public domain data sets we get access to and everybody can get access to them. And but there are a lot of data sets that either come from vendors or are acquired through clinical trials that come with stipulations that control how they can be used and who can use them. So that takes governance from kind of a simple, just somebody has read access versus read write, to this other complexity of, is the purpose that you're requesting access to data compliant with the way the data was accessed or was acquired? And so that adds, in our case, it added this layer of complexity where it's like, oh, I found the data exists, but I now have to describe what I'm doing with it in order for somebody to grant access so that we remain compliant. Because it's a lot of work for us to write code, to build governance systems, data discovery systems, as well as publish data sets, publish data products.
We had the concept of policy as code, as in computationally be able to write code and programs that gets evaluated in the life cycle of a data product, and they get validated against access control at a point that the data gets accessed. And I think the complexity that your environment had, that just took that to the next level. I think the data products becoming autonomous and having code and control baked into it, so you don't need to have somebody else to watch them.
So it's been a pleasure kind of seeing this opportunity kind of mushroom into a real product and a real architecture. So
thank you. Teaching us how to giving us a real sense of complexity around data, particularly in your domain.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Same here, Edward. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So in order to support requirements like that, we needed to enable local autonomy and control, but balance that with global compliance and policy validation. This is what Zhamak called federated computational governance in your book, and some are now calling it the franchise model. But it's not just federated, it's continuous. The key enabler of this capability is our kernel that Mark described earlier. It runs within the context of every single data product and is governable through its policy APIs, continuously executing policy as code. It's the heartbeat of autonomous data products. It checks for data for compliance on every single operation to ensure continuous quality and policy control. I'm excited to introduce Jonathan Morgan, head of product, to show you how this works. After that, we're almost done. So I'll be handing it back to Zhamak to finish up.
As a data product owner, I have the best understanding of my data, the consumers who want to use it, what I can guarantee about my data product, and what I expect from upstream data sources. Here you can see input expectations that guarantee the quality of upstream data providers. I'm also making output promises, which are guarantees made to downstream consumers. As a data platform owner, it's my job to enable domain teams to publish and manage their own data products while also ensuring those data products meet business needs and quality expectations. The data platform owner's primary tool is global policies, which are centrally validated for consistency, but executed locally within each data product's environment. In contrast, promises and expectations are defined, evaluated, and enforced locally by the data product to ensure each product is self-governing. Let's take a look at how global policies, promises, and expectations work together. Say a domain team just published a multi-channel sales data product. With Nextdata, as a data platform owner, I can create and activate global policies that require the multi-channel sales data product to make certain promises. For example, requiring that the data product validate all of its schemas using promises so quality is consistent across the mesh. I can easily activate this policy on any data product with a simple command. You're actually getting a sneak peek behind the curtains of Nextdata right now. The UI for this feature is being built and will be available after our next sprint, but we're excited about this capability and we're developing really fast. I can confirm this policy is active via the data products API, and activated global policies and their status are also accessible in the data products detail view. Nextdata also gives me visibility into how the mesh is performing across the organization. We're uniquely positioned to give data platform owners end-to-end visibility into mesh performance by capturing analytics directly from the platform layer where data products are created, governed, and accessed. This allows platform owners to identify domains that are lacking in adoption and offer onboarding support, detect policy violations and enforce remediation, and pinpoint unreliable data products to prioritize for stabilization or deprecation. And if something goes wrong, it's easy to contain, debug, and resolve the problem with Nextdata. For example, we can see that the online sales data product has failed. If we look under the hood, we see that its promise failed because a required attribute was missing. But going back to the mesh, we see that the failure was contained locally and does not break downstream consumers. Even though multi-channel sales depends on online sales, when we click into the data product detail, we see that it only enforces an expectation of daily freshness. So it continues operating with the most recent valid data. Now, if online sales isn't repaired within a day, multi-channel sales will fail, but gracefully. ensuring loose coupling with strong guarantees. This approach empowers data platform owners to fix issues without triggering mesh-wide failures. It gives data platform owners confidence that policy enforcement and dependency management are working as designed, and ensures data consumers always have access to reliable, trusted data, even in the face of upstream disruptions.
Okay, we are almost at the end. I hope you've enjoyed this session so far. Whether you are a data product developer, user, or a manager, you feel inspired to roll the sleeves up and try out Nextdata. But before you go, there is one more thing. I have a pretty good idea what many of you are thinking right now. How do I go from my current data mess of pipelines and data sets, sitting around in files or tables, to simple, domain-oriented, and usable data products? Well, you could hire a small army of data contractors to do a migration project for you, or you could use our containerization technology to just containerize the mess, or you could do it in another way that is a little bit more fun. So let's check it out. Let me introduce you to Nextd, your helpful multi-agent AI friend for working with Nextdata OS. We designed Nextd to help you with the toughest, messiest data challenges, and that is inheriting a tangled hairball of legacy pipeline code built over time by many hands, scripts, data sets, different storage locations, and pipelines. Nextd can analyze legacy code and data and design and build domain-oriented data products. Trying to turn legacy data processing code into a clean set of business domains and meaningful data products, that is often a long and expensive transformation project. So let's try another way with Nextd and start with the code base. A repo full of SQL scripts and ETL jobs. Let's get Nextd to analyze it. Okay, it's found an ETL code base with a medallion layered architecture in an e-commerce domain. It's found the source systems where the data comes from Amazon APIs, SAP, and others. It can tell us about the data sets and code in each layer, bronze, silver, gold, and these layers often have noticeable amounts of data and processing replication that are not directly adding value to business, but they add, to the cost of storage and compute. And Nextd has given us a simplified drawing of these layers to easily grok. The good news is that Nextd gives us a head start. We can understand what we're looking at, and now we're ready to change it. Now let's ask Nextd to think a little harder and recommend a set of business domains and data products. In other words, bootstrap our mesh of connected and well-bounded autonomous data products from 0 to 1. A first draft grounded in the actual code and data that we can shape, iterate on, and make our own. This removes the guesswork and helps us leap our transformation from a short and fast starting point. While Nextd is thinking, let me tell you what's happening under the hood. Nextd is actually a multi-agent system, and right now it's playing multiple roles at once. First, there's the mesh architect agent. It's been given context and prompts around best practices for identifying business domain boundaries and designing data products. And this part is art and science. And the one question that I get personally asked most often. There is the data product modeling agent. This agent looks at code and data consumption and knows how to create semantic models using Nextdata's framework. And at last, we have the data product coding implementation agent. And this one takes everything and rearranges the original code into clean, well-scoped data products. And finally, it adds quality checks, define contracts, and writes the code and data product spec declarations. So while we wait, these agents are quietly doing the hard work, turning an unknown and messy repo and data into a clean, business-oriented, and connected mesh of autonomous data products. This may take a little while, so let's look at the progress again. it looks like it's producing the data products now. Great, it's done. All right, let's have a look at the data products and the domains it's modeled. Not bad at all. It's done a solid job. It's identified a set of distinct business domains like retail operations, product, vendors, and analytics. This last one is a bit suspicious. Analytics is not strictly a business domain. So let's take a note and we can review that later. Within each domain, it has identified a set of data products, source-aligned ones and aggregate ones that are derived from those. Well, this is a pretty smart starting point, and we can now iterate on with clarity. I personally love when my agent can explain why it's made these recommendations, so let's find out. Pretty comprehensible reasoning behind how it identified each business domain. And I love its reasoning for data product definitions to be focused on value and reusability. And another thing I really like is that V01 doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to pave a clear migration path that then we can iterate on. And one more thing, it's fixing the disconnect between the technical names of tables and real business language by choosing business-oriented names and descriptions for the semantic model. This particular problem is currently solved by multiple tools, disconnected and cataloging steps that are done often manually by the business. That's the kind of trust and transparency we need in AI-driven development. Okay, now let's deep dive into one of these data products. Take vendor inventory. It tells us clearly which business domain it belongs to. It tells us that it aggregates data from Amazon and 7-Eleven sources. It describes its semantic model, both what it expects from upstream and the models that it produces for downstream. And wow, it's also telling us all about its code. That's a pretty long SQL statement. And the part I love, that it's created the quality contracts and the expectations on the input and promises on the output. And the best part, it spells out its dependencies to the original legacy code. I love this. Okay, I feel confident enough now to launch these autonomous, self-governing, self-orchestrating, independently managed data products. Let's bootstrap them. Nextdata is giving us superpowers, and it is awesome. All right, let's move back to the Nextdata OS discovery experience. Here it is, our V01 version of our business domains and data products generated by Nextdata. Clearly defined domains, vendor, retail operations, product. Well, analytics needs a review. Autonomous data products who each manage their soup to nuts of data management locally, clearly imagined lineage about how data is consumed across boundaries of technology and data products on the mesh and off the mesh. And this is a solid starting point, and we can evolve from here. Okay, everyone, this is it. Nextdata OS is born live. For people who are curious what's going to happen next, I want to share 3 interesting areas that we're working on. We build the platform as an open platform with openness for integration and extension in mind. So the first thing that we're going to be focusing on is opening up all of the surfaces of the platform. As you saw in my first demo, the data product itself, the autonomous data product, has an open surface, as in its runtime and build time is accessible through APIs, and we will be making that available for usage and integration. The platform itself, the developer experience for building, the onboarding, for the management, the insights, all of it, all the surface area of the OS is also integratable through APIs. And we'll be working on that so that you can extend it, you can integrate it into your environments. And drivers, as Cornelius mentioned before, they were designed for simplicity of extension. We wanted to put all of our intelligence into the kernel and really make drivers simple and dumb. So writing drivers should be fairly easy, fairly quick for different types. So you will see more announcements around the driver SDKs and implementation there. Second, Nextdata and friends, we're going to give them quite a bit of love. So we have the backbone within the with the autonomous data product that gives us and gives you an enormous amount of control and an enormous amount of live information at every touch point of with your data at the level of every single domain data entity and processing. So Nextdata will be tapping into that and making, again, data management and discovery and governance smarter and smarter. And last, we have every intention for this to become a global standard for data management for AI and any other data use case, frankly. So we will take whatever steps it takes and necessary to open this technology to ensure you can invest in it, you can adapt it, and use it for all your data use cases. So keep an eye on nextdata.com learning section. There will be coming webinars, there will be coming announcements. If you want to get your hands dirty and try things out, send us a message at hello@nextdata.com or request a demo from the website. We would love to hear from you. And I want to close us off with a huge thank you to all of our design partners, investors, customers, for being part of this journey, to my team for their incredible dedication, and to you who are just discovering us. We would love to hear from you and invite you to be part of this. Hope to see everyone very soon.